Welcome to Philosophy Communications podcast titled Shaping Thought for Appliance Service. During each Shaping Thought episode, we explore the industry's brightest and most talented entrepreneurs who are working to define the appliance service industry. It's our goal to have every listener leave with at least one new golden nugget or inspiration that they can apply to their business. So let's get started. Today, I'm here with Scott Baca, President of American Appliance, with 3 locations in Colorado. Scott, welcome to Shaping Thought.
Thank you. You said brightest. Are you sure that I'm one of those?
You are the brightest. I can't even tell you. I've been looking forward to this podcast so much. I've known Scott Baca for 24 years, probably. Oh gosh, it's been a while. And you know, we're friends. You've taught me so much as a leader, and so today I'm just really looking forward to it. And one of the things is a concept years ago you brought forward was servant leadership, where you really think about empowering the teams versus, you know, it being controlled strictly from the top in that servant leadership. So I'd love to talk a little bit about your leadership and, you know, what your philosophy is around being a really good leader, which you are. And I know humbly you're going to say, no, I'm not.
Boy, what do I think of my leadership? Boy, I think it probably depends on the day, probably. You know, it really kind of comes down to putting people in place around you that are good at the things that you're not, and allowing people to be themselves and to be creative in all that they do in the way they were designed to do. And that's hard. If you're a business owner and you're detail oriented and you want things done a certain way, sometimes it's hard to step back from that. And there's certainly opportunities to coach and things like that to get people, you know, to get accomplished something the way, you know, maybe you would want it to look, but maybe not done the way you would think it should be done, if that makes sense.
It does. Is there any sort of anyone in your past that you thought was a really good leader that you were like, I want to lead like that? Or did it come more organically for you?
Well, I think it came both ways. I was talking about a gentleman by the name of Jim Yates. You know, my very first job I ever had, he was a brand new businessman himself, running a retail aquarium store. At the time, I was 14 years old, and you know, I don't know that I even had a work ethic established at that point in my career. And I found out along the way from him just how important it is to listen to the people around you. And look, at 14 years old, I don't know how much I knew about life necessarily, but I certainly learned from him what it was to take joy in working with other people. Not just coworkers, but customers themselves, and that's not something that gets really talked about today. It's no longer a focal point in our culture and society. And you know, I think retail people just go and they hire somebody that they think might be friendly or something, but really learn how to work with people, listen to people, and things is kind of become a bit of a lost art. I don't think electronics has helped us out necessarily through all of that, but I would certainly say. Back then, Jim was, you know, he taught me a lot about just taking joy and listening to other people and learning from other people, and really at its very roots, kind of what is humility. And you know, thinking, you know, one of the quotes from C.S. Lewis is, you know, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking more of thinking less. Can't talk today, but thinking of yourself less, and that's really true. If you could put more value in what other people said and thought and what they could teach you, man, holy cow, you unlock the doors of success.
I think that's so true. And you know, I wish more people were be talking about joy in work. You know, that really resonates with me. I see that. I mentor and work with a lot of recent graduates, and I see, you know, the need to find joy in work, find your purpose, and have some joy. So I really, you know, I think that's a great statement. When you've been, you know,
yeah, I also think this too. I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I think people don't understand is that I think ultimately we're wired to serve others, Jen, as business leaders, no
That's
matter
right.
who you are, what business you're in the business to serve others. And yet, it feels like we're right out of the gate designed to serve ourselves, and that's the way society is. And if we could figure out how to unlock that a little bit and just listen more to others and learn more from others and get ideas from others and implement based upon what we've learned. I mean, that is really where success comes from.
Well, and you and I have always been big believers in that very, if you want to be happy, help others, that idea of serving others.
Yeah.
What's interesting as a leader, it seems like such a, it's, to me, it's such an easy thing to do, but it's not something we choose to do. A lot of people or a lot of leaders. And so, when people say, serve others, it's actually quite easy, but it's not always something people, it's not their go-to. And that always surprises me because it's not hard to listen, right?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it is easy to do. I think where it becomes challenging sometimes is that, we want to help others as long as we get something out of it. And and that's kind of not
Not the
really
point.
not the point, right? If you could help others and you gain nothing out of that, that's okay. That's where real joy can come from. And
Is there a mistake that you made along the way or a lesson you learned along the way that you're like, that informs you a little bit as a leader?
oh boy, every day, right? I think anytime you lead people, you walk away from something, go, man, I wish I would have said this, or I wish I would have handled it this way,
Yes.
or why didn't I think of that? Or,
Mhm.
I could have been better here. I could have been, better at that. Or you kind of replay it in the back of your brain when it's too late. But yeah, I wish that I was maybe slower to to say things and be thoughtful about them more than what I am sometimes.
What about if you had any advice? I mean, and you already do this. I know you're very involved in sort of the appliance servicer network through Sub-Zero with many of the other servicers, but is there a piece of advice that you would think another appliance servicer would find particularly helpful? Like I thought, what you were just saying about listening, really listening. But is there something you would say to another appliance servicer or a piece of advice that you would give them?
I think peer groups are extremely important,
I do too, yeah.
especially with you get into one that's in the same kind of business you are, because they can truly understand where you're at, where you're coming from, or maybe somebody's made the same mistake you're about to, and maybe you can learn from somebody else. But also being able to going into a peer group not just because you want to receive stuff, but also be prepared to give.
Mhm.
It's got to be both directions, and I think that any business owner could benefit a great deal by getting into a peer group.
And you're in a couple peer groups. If I,
Yeah,
how many are you? I mean, you're involved in a few, right?
yeah, I would say yeah. So I'm a part of one religiously, if you will, every month. I get together with them, and those are other business leaders that are in maybe different types of businesses, and that is also beneficial
Is that the
with
Christian
a whole bunch of different
CEOs?
things. Yeah,
Christian CEOs,
Christian CEO.
and then you're involved in another one through sort of the
Yeah,
Sub-Zero.
yeah, it's not really so much a formal uh, peer group as much as it is. I work with two other business owners who are doing the very same business that I'm in just different parts of the country. So working with certified parts out in Boston, and then working with West Coast parts out of California, and those are really good things because it allows us to benchmark with one another. Also, kind of helps drive innovation a little bit. That when we all get together and talk about our challenges, or maybe we want to try something new, we can kind of run that across, by one another, and out of that maybe come up with a better product than what we would have had to start with.
Well, and let's be, you've got these peer groups where you are involved with, but I also know, from being in the industry as long as we have together, you have mentored so many other servicers and have become a mentor and kind of like a godfather to many other servicers in terms of working with them or giving them advice. And I'm sure you've gotten something out of it, but I do think, American Appliance is bar none one of the gold standards in the United States for customer experience, for the way you operate, for your inventory management. I mean, you have really, in my mind, redefined the whole industry in a lot of ways, and American Appliance is at the top of that. You're kind of at the pinnacle, and so the fact you're willing to take so much time, not from a competitive, mindset, just as let me help the industry as a whole. I mean, you are the first one in there to do that. So, and that's probably what's led you to be your huge success, the success that American Appliance is, that ability. So with that, and I think that is the idea of partnership. And through the years, you and I have worked together. There's many words of wisdom. And I don't know if you know this, but one of the golden nuggets that I've taken away from working with you years ago, you said to me, Jen, the definition of a partner, a good partner, is someone invests as much you as you do them. And I think that applies to relationships, marriages, that idea that you must always be investing in your partnership. And I have to say, that is a piece of advice that has really changed me, changed my leadership, changed my company. I think about that. I spend the days thinking of like, how can I make my clients money? How can I be a better partner to my clients? It's literally at the foundation of everything I think about. So when it comes to partnerships, what do you think partners get right, and what do you think partners get wrong?
Well, I think where partners go wrong is when they look at it from the perspective of if it becomes all about you, it becomes a
Yep.
problem. If you're not willing to share or to be vulnerable, to be transparent, you're going to fail in those relationships because people just don't trust you. And I think I want to go back to that other word, relationship, a little bit. And I think back when I told you that, I was really describing this word relationship, because a partnership is one thing. Like you and I could be, playing tug of war together as partners, being on one side, but we don't necessarily have to know one another real well in order to play tug of war. However, if we're playing on an offensive line together, there's a lot more communication and relationships and
That's right.
guys covering other guys and that type of stuff, and that's really where those relationships come into, and those relationships are really key. I would just say thank you to Philosophy Communications, because you've established this word relationships all over the walls of our building, on our business cards, on our website, and that really is the gold standard of any good partnership, right? You want to have things going both ways, where you're giving and you're receiving together. That's the most important part. So how partnerships fail is when that doesn't happen, and how they succeed is when you can go into these partnerships giving in that very same way. And so I think that's the key.
I would agree. So, Scott, for the listeners, tell us, how did you get involved in appliance service? What's the origin story there?
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, I'm going to have to default to Jimmy Buffett on this one. Some people claim there's always a woman to blame, and so I think I would start there. I was working for Gart Brothers Sporting Goods Company, and I was living the life of a single guy. As an Eagle Scout, I was used to camping and fishing and being outdoors and all that. I loved all of that, and working at Gart Brothers was a great job. I wasn't making any money at the time, but I was having a great time. Um,
Is this when you met
when
Angie?
Yeah, when I met Angie, the world came apart, and in a really great way. I mean, you'll lose yourself a little bit when you find that person, and instead of the me, it becomes the we, and that's all very true. And it's not that we didn't do those things, but I had to find a different career. I kind of had to find my grown-up job, and
Mhm.
I found going out into the workplace was really a challenge. I thought I'd be pretty employable, and I was struggling to find work. And I've had a short stint with Baca. It's a hardwood floor finish manufacturer that lasted about 2 weeks. And then when I got a phone call from a guy by the name of Dwayne at Roth Distributing, they hired me to go in to be in customer service for their flooring division. I was in there a week, Jen, and they said, no, you know what? We really like your personality. We really think that you would be really good at collections. How they came up with collections, I have no clue. But that's how it came across. They wanted me to do collections. So I was doing collections. I was working with a lady at the time, and yeah, she had horrible people skills, and I was able to talk people into collecting money, and that didn't last real long. I probably did that for maybe 2 or 3 months. Then I had another gentleman, a guy by the name of Randy Spurlock, says, you know what? I hate dealing with grumpy customers, and he was in the appliance division. And so I went to go work for Randy, taking care of his customer service issues, and that grew into being a part of our. It became its own entity, if you will. We had a team called our CSET division, or customer satisfaction every time, is what that stood for, and that became bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, I got some people working for me. One of those guys works for me at American today, but we had four of us at one point. And I started working in the showroom, managing the showroom and overseeing the order desk at Roth, and getting involved in special projects with opening up the new Denver facility, our Salt Lake facility, Kansas City, and St. Louis. And I loved my job. I mean, to be honest with you, I got a huge, I had a lot of variety of things to do. I enjoyed all of that, but I also enjoyed going out and traveling with the Sub-Zero reps and the ASCO reps, and meeting service companies and talking with them and building relationships with them. And I had no idea that all of this was going to prepare me for business ownership one day. I look back on it and just think, wow, the Lord had a really cool plan for me, and I'm just in awe how He puts things together. But 2005 rolls around, and I got a phone call from Scott Jorgensen. He was the owner of American Appliance at the time, who was not only a service company, but also a parts distributorship. And Scott said, you know what's, his name's also Scott. He says, Scott, I'm just tired. I'm ready to retire. And he was a fairly young guy at that point in time, but he also grew up in the business under his father, and so I kind of got that. But I wasn't ready just to leave Roth at the time. I was really happy there. I enjoyed the challenges. I enjoyed the variety. I loved working with John and Randy, and they were just terrific bosses. But I took a good solid year of just prayerfully considering changing and moving on to a job that I already loved. I mean, who does that?
Right.
Um, but I did. And it took a long time. There wasn't any one thing that pushed me that direction other than the Lord thumping me on the head saying, yeah, you got to make a move. And when I went to go work at American Appliance in January 1st of 2007, so think about that. That's like a year and a half of prayerfully considering. I was pretty
Mm-hmm.
happy at Roth. Um, I went in there as a service manager, and I found out how much I didn't know. So, yeah, and I learned a lot of the bad things about myself. I found out I was a bona fide procrastinator, and I had to
Ah.
fix that. I was it, man. I was slow on making decisions, and as a service manager, you kind of have to keep things moving along and make decisions. And sometimes, even if they're bad, it's still better than not making one quick enough. So, but it was a good experience. So that's how I got into the appliance repair business. Already knowing quite a bit about Sub-Zero Wolf and Cove,
Mm-hmm.
already knowing quite a bit about distribution, already having quite a bit of time, and a lot of times that was face-to-face time with customers I worked with in the showrooms. I already knew who the clientele was going in. And so it just felt like a good fit if I could just figure out the administration side of it and how to manage that many personalities. I thought I'd do pretty good with it. But the first year and a half was really challenging.
Well,
So,
as somebody that's been on the
yeah,
sidelines, worked with you at Roth with really good people, now you've got really great people also at American Appliance that you've surrounded yourself with. I don't know if I'd call you slow. I see you very methodical. And I think it's because you do listen and you do. So I know it comes across slow and maybe perhaps you would like your decisions to be made, but as someone not sort of on the outside, I see that, and also once you've made a decision, Scott, I've also watched that because you do that, you're like, nope, this is what we decided to do. We're just going to go full forward with it. So it's a reframe.
I think that's true. And I think I've also been able to put good people around me, not only internally, but also externally, like you and I, Jen. I mean, if you recall a conversation you and I had, say 2008, I told you back then, I said, I really want to somehow change the image of our organization. And, when we
Hmm.
looked at logos and stuff, it was wrenches and screwdrivers and hammers, which I have no idea where that came from. And I told you, I said, so I don't know how we put lipstick on this pig, but see what you can do and look at what it's turned into today. You're one of those
I mean,
key partners. That
thank you.
I think you started it out well, right? We kind of grew together in the business. I don't know how much mentoring I necessarily did, but I certainly think that as we kind of uh,
Hmm.
started to really look at the appliance repair business and what it could look like and how we could better partner with the distributors and the dealers and ultimately customers. Uh, it took some time to really identify, and Sub-Zero's role in all of that for both of us was just hugely critical in how we
Hmm.
thought about things and how we drove the business and stuff. But Jen, we did that together, you and I and a few others around us, and along with that came some other great partners, uh, other service repair companies. So it's been a great ride.
Absolutely. I definitely feel that. Well, let's talk about the anniversary because I mean, I'm still blown away at your 50th anniversary. So, for the listeners, I mean, you went all in. A lot of people are like, okay, let's just have an email signature, let's just say 50th anniversary, call it a day. I mean, what was it about your mindset that you're like, you know what, this is a milestone. It's a milestone for our customers, it's a milestone for our community, it's a milestone for our partners and our employees. I mean, you went all in. I have to tell people, I mean, you even the party, it was a 70s party that you planned where people got to dress up and sort of go back to that year that the company was founded. And then, everything from a coffee table book to videos. I mean, what made you think this is a milestone that we're not going to just phone it in? This is a big deal.
Yeah, boy, that's a long answer. Um, I guess to try to keep it somewhat, concise is that I you got to look and go, wow, it's been 50 years. That's a long time. I was 5 years old when this business got started.
Mm-hmm.
5 years old. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I also look at it this way. Um, yeah, I'm an owner of American Appliance, but at the end of the day, I'm in a position of stewardship for the
That's right.
organization. Not only as a Christian business leader, I hope and I pray to God that we do things honorably in a way that would be truly honoring and pleasing to God. I hope that's what we do and what we're designed for. But and while I feel like I've got my own story to tell about my tenure here and what we've accomplished and things, I didn't want to go without tipping our hat to the people who got us to this point. Uh, when Dick started the business, this started out of a garage, and slowly moved into a store down in Brentwood, and then Scott and Sandy moved it to another business building, and it got hit by a tornado, and then we had the 1980s collapse of the economy here in Denver, and they survived all those things, and that needed to be told. And then just kind of telling the story of how Scott and Sandy grew the business, and the things that they went through to get us here. We've survived all those years. A lot of businesses don't survive 50 years.
It's a big accomplishment.
It's a big accomplishment, most businesses don't make it past the third generation. Well, I'm a third generation, so I want to make sure that I don't fail the business in any way. But we wanted to capture that. We wanted to celebrate that, and we wanted to bring the people into the business that were here in the past and really celebrate what they've done, for the organization, and also to put perspective to the people who are in the room that are not here with us now, but will be with us in the future. A lot of those people are younger. I mean, they're 20 somethings, 30 somethings, and they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And that party certainly did that. And I would also say this too. One of the things that doesn't make the list is that we just got done going through 3 years and 4 months of a really rough software migration that really took it out of the business, out of our staff, out of me personally, and our customers. I mean, it was terrible. And we came out of that a little defeated, kind of a cloud of darkness over us for a while. And we didn't, even though we switched back to ePass, that cloud did not disappear. And that celebration really put into perspective that was a blip. That 3 years, 4 months is a tiny number when you compare it to the 50 some odd years that we've been in business. And we tried that whole software thing was about getting us to the next level and really improving the business. And it I won't say it destroyed us, but it certainly left a black cloud over the business that I think even today we still have a little bit of. But that celebration was really important to our staff because we needed to get out from underneath that cloud, and we needed to get back to doing the things that we're really good at doing. That party was not only a party to celebrate 50 years, but let's also be real honest, it was also a party of, hey, we're getting back to the things we've always done. And that was a really big deal. And probably nobody else other than the people that work for us knew that. But that was a big deal. So yeah, we had to be all in on that one, from the video that we created, the book, all of that. That was a really important night.
Well, and I think what you said earlier about being a leader, a good leader, you have to be vulnerable and transparent. As somebody was on the sidelines during that migration, and we talked about how that was just a very difficult time. I probably believe your transparency and vulnerability is what helped you move through it in a strong way, which is, I know it was difficult. I'm not trying to belittle how hard that was, but I do think those are two qualities that probably led to you getting through it,
Yeah, it was tough. I know that outside the walls it looked tough. It was brutal inside, and Jen, I mean, it was putting 3 years of upgrades to ePass that we just didn't put any effort into. So when we went back to ePass, we had to really kind of rethink things and redo things and change how we wanted to do business in some ways. Because we did learn a lot through that migration. We learned about what we wanted and what we didn't want and what we wanted to fix and all those things. And there were things in ePass that could help us with those. But also how we thought about things was also really critical. We got done with that. We went live in March of last year back to ePass, and that party was in August. And it was not easy because there was so much that had to get fixed and so much had to get back on the rails. The planning for that event was hard. It was challenging to think about something other than the day-to-day. But it was something that was really important to me. uh, for our staff because we really had to be done with that 3 years of SAP.
Well, and the overall sentiment that you could feel, you felt it through each and every employee. You even had former employees that may not have left even on the best terms come back to this party and all be together and celebrate. And Scott, I think that says a lot about you because I know sometimes when you have to let an employee go or go another direction, that can be difficult. But to have even, that vibe of gratitude, because even though that employee was gone, you felt it. There's a sense of, but you were important at a time when it was important, and there was some gratitude. I mean, it was pretty cool. Is there anything with the anniversary that brought forth, was an effect, a positive effect that you're like, I never knew that, that would have been a result from investing and doing that particular thing?
I would say that the people, especially a lot of our young technicians who we had just got done hiring since 2019 to that date, all of a sudden really realized what they really had joined. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in 2019, we really made an effort to start bringing in young technicians, and back in 2019, our average age was 58. Now it's 36. And
Wow.
man, these young guys, they are just lit. Every
Man,
one of
they
them
like their
wants to be
job.
a
They
yeah,
they
they
like there's joy. You can feel the joy in their job. I think they're like, yeah, this is pretty good.
they are just lit and
Yeah.
excited about life, and they're most of them are either just getting married or just had their first child, and they're all kind of in a similar stage of life, and it's a lot of fun to be around them. Uh, I always said if you want to feel young, hang around old people. If you want to feel old, hang around young people. And I was kind of feeling old that day because I couldn't play kickball worth a darn. But it was a lot of fun. But those young guys went to that party and they walked out of there going, "Wow, I had no idea I was a part of something that was so much bigger."
Is
And it was good. A lot of those old guys got a chance to visit with those young guys, and we had people been working with us since before I got in the appliance repair business. Like Ernie Stricker and Jeff
mm-hmm.
Gobler, and some of these people have been around a long time. Boy,
That's
having
right.
them walk into the room, I mean, you felt like the company felt really big.
It did.
you know, it
Well,
was
that
it was
I
really a
still
cool
think
night.
it's really cool that you invested in your people, your partners, your customers, all the people that made a difference. I think that was really cool.
Yeah,
Well, let's
including
switch
you.
gears.
You did a great job with emceeing that night and keeping us on track. And it was tough because it is emotional. You're looking at people you haven't talked to in a long time, and you want to catch up with them. And there's so many stories and things that you really wanted to share. So you kept us on track.
I just wanted to wear the '70s jumpsuit. That was really, really.
Yeah,
I was like, this is kind of fun. Well, let's switch gears and talk about the future. So, what's the, do you think much about the future of American Appliance or where you want it to go next or what's getting you excited?
yeah. In 2019, we talked about bringing in all those young guys, but really, as an organization, we've really wanted to become more of a training or more of a business about learning. And so, we're trying to create learning plans for everybody, not only about how to do your job, but about the products and about the industry and about partnerships and, about each other, even how to lead. Tom's going to teach a class tomorrow on humble, hungry, and smart, and that type of stuff. And so every Friday we want to make sure we're talking about something new. But beyond that, it's just becoming a learning organization, and not only about learning, but just having a full training program when somebody comes into the business, and not only training but cataloging it, putting structure into it, so that once we put somebody through training, we know how long it takes for somebody to get on board to be productive. For an example, when we used to train technicians, it would take a year, maybe a
Mm,
year and a couple of months to train a technician to be in the field. Well, nowadays because everything is all structured. We know exactly all the steps that have to be taken. We can field a guy in about 4.5 to 5 months. That is
That's
also true of our internal people, right? Our customer service people and our warehouse people and even managers, as we're going through all this, we're trying to become better with leadership and so all of this is getting cataloged with the idea of the future, right? Not only learning how to hire the right people, which we've gotten much better with, but also when we get them here, how do we train them and make them as good as they can possibly be? And again, and this all leads to the next step, which is expansion. And so we're building for expansion, and
great.
so that we can replicate what we do today.
That's awesome. Well, now I'm going to switch sort of for some final thoughts. This is sort of our fire round. What appliance could you not live without?
Boy, I'll tell you what, we got some great ones. Um, I know this is the boring answer, but I love our Sub-Zero. I, that you know what, stuff just lasts a lot longer with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's better organized, it's better lit. Things just, it just always is dependable and works. And we take that for granted. I think once you've owned a Sub-Zero, you kind of become a little bit, um,
Spoiled.
yeah, spoiled. And you don't realize what you have
That's right. Amazing.
necessarily. And we went backwards once, and that lasted all but a month. And my wife said, "Get this other brand out of here. Get a Sub-Zero. I don't care how you do it. Just get one." And so we take it for granted, but things do last a lot longer. Like right now, it's peach season, so we're buying peaches and stuff, and we have time to eat a full, flat of peaches because they last a long time in there, and
Mm-hmm.
so we can extend the peach season a little longer. So
That's great.
that's really good.
And if you weren't in the appliance service industry, what would you be doing?
I don't truthfully know what I would be doing other than the fact that I really like serving and working with people. Um, I would love to be able to volunteer and help out the Denver Rescue Mission in
Mm-hmm.
some sort of capacity. But I would find some sort of job where I could continue to help people. And if I could do that in a way that would be, serving God, I would love that even more.
I think that sums up you to a T. Well, Scott, I want to thank you for today and being able to talk a little bit about you. I think the lessons around joy and listening, peer groups, and at the end of the day, surrounding yourself with good people and being good yourself are definitely things that I believe will touch other servicers as they listen to this. So, Scott, is there anything else that you'd like to share that we didn't talk about that you want to say?
Well, I hope that I've done something to help you out with this. I don't know who would ever want to listen to me talk this long. Even my wife doesn't last this long.
Are you kidding? I'm going to send it to the kids and Angie. We're going to have at least 3 listeners. All
Yeah, we
right.
might get through 2 minutes of conversation.
I know. Well, thank you for listening to our Shaping Thought podcast today. And if you liked what Scott had to say, the best way to say thank you is to subscribe to the podcast. And if you have questions to Scott, feel free to send them to shapingthought@philosophycommunication.com. So until then, keep shaping thought. Thank you.